Music feels slick. Hey, everybody, welcome back to an all new X's for podcast. I'm Nico.
And I'm TK.
And that does make this X's for podcast. But let me tell you, I am so excited to be here and talking comics. One of the things that I've really been vibing on this last couple of weeks is like the sort of weird experiential diversity of reading at Marvel and reading at DC. I feel like I can do a Marvel book real fast, but I feel like it takes me like an extra couple of hours to do a DC book, in part because I feel like the entirety of the Marvel universe is something I know really well, but I feel like the DC universe remains kind of like a little elusive. So I'm really enjoying Absolute Power, and I'm really enjoying getting to know all of that stuff. And we have quite a docket today.
I hear what you're saying, and I probably should be doing the same since I know way less about DC than you do. But I've kind of decided that the only way this can work is if I don't rabbit hole every DC moment.
Smart man.
And so it means having to read at my Marvel pace. And we talked about this before. There are a lot of times where I'm just like, and that is clearly a character that everyone knows and is very popular, and I just don't really know yet. And then I get on the show with you, and you're like this person who came out of nowhere, who nobody knows, who has never existed before this issue.
I'm gonna sob talking about Airwave later. That's the whole reason I was like, can we? So there was originally a different B section on the DC stuff, but when a specific character was announced as coming back for the first time in like 26 years, I was like, can we please scrap the Batman family stuff I want to talk about for this random DC character?
Sure.
Not yet, though.
No, I know. I'm down. I'm there.
So we are talking about Spider Society. We are talking about Green Lantern, X Factor, I guess some From the Ashes Infinity comic. We're going to be talking about some Absolute Power. We got a docket today.
Anything you're super excited about?
Generally, I am excited to keep moving through what feels like a little bit of the slog that has been slowing up my X-Men experience. I've been feeling a little, I guess, weighed down by not loving where From the Ashes is at. So I definitely would hope to get through that and get to some new stuff soon, but we'll see. How about you?
I think I maybe hit my breaking point with X Factor in a way that like I actually am a little excited to be like fully over it. Oh, and you know what? Sorry, of course, this is the biggest thing. Our girl's back. That's what I'm really excited about. Our girl is back.
She sure is.
And that's the most important thing in the world to me. I mean, like, honestly, when we were talking about this, I was a little bit like, I don't know, Nico, we don't usually do Spider Society. Like, I'm not sure if that's the vibe for our content. But then I was like, wait a second. Or we don't usually do Spider books in general, like not for A content. I don't know. But then we have to.
Yeah.
Because if she's ever going to be anywhere, May Parker is going to be here.
And, one of the things that threw me off about not catching her in this book over and over again, we both read through Spider Society and like we didn't even notice there were places she was in it. And like, I kind of hate to say it this way, but it sort of comes down to an editorial thing for me. I need more caption boxes with names. I need more names on characters because she is in like 12 pages, and yet in all 12 pages, her name isn't said.
Yeah, it's a little disappointing. We'll get into it.
So I want to start, though. I think you said that you've got some anger toward Monsieur Brevoort. And,
yeah.
I can't help but feel like I too often have some irritation at X-Men current editor Tom Brevoort, who really seems to go out of his way to take down fandom joy every chance it seems sometimes.
Yeah, that is in fact what happens. So this one is about, he was talking about the QR code situation, and he listed 2 examples of what's going on with the QR codes to basically say everybody's fine with them, and and if they're not, they're terrible people, and here's my proof. One is nobody came up to me at conventions and complained about the QR codes. 2 is, here is a comment that I did get complaining about QR codes, and it was truly hellacious. It was like I hope you die by suffocating on a QR code and your whole family burns alive in a QR code related incident, and you would deserve that, and you can burn in hell. Now, between those 2 extremes, no one spoke to me about it at all, and the one comment I got is the most hellacious thing that ever happened, is actually where everybody else is. And the fact that his thing was nobody cares except for horrible people, and here is my proof, just drove me really insane. I mean, the fact of the matter is, no one is going to go up to you at a con and like, you're there to enjoy, you're there as a fan. You're least likely to have people come up to you and just be absolutely hellacious and horrible. And also like want to talk that kind of shop. If they're at the From the Ashes panel, they're trying to get psyched and get hyped up. And I think a lot of people would avoid that kind of confrontation. So I don't think that's a great sample size. And then, of course, if you show me the worst comment in the whole world, yeah, that guy's terrible. I don't like the QR codes at all, but I would never say that to Tom Brevoort. Like, that's horrible. That's inexcusable. But between those extremes, again, like I'm not at I won't say anything, and I'm not at I hope you die in a fire. I am at I don't like this. It's a terrible idea.
And that's even kind of like part of the problem. I'm never like, I'm done with this. This is dead to me. I've been thinking about it a lot because like I'm going through some like annals of the show. I am like looking back on our history, where we're going in the future. And I'm thinking about what we used to be and how like there are people, I want to thank all, I think it's like seriously like 95 people who downloaded the first 2 episodes of this show in the last week or 2 out of nowhere. So happy to hear that people are going back and checking out the original. But sometimes it makes me wish that we could have an indica. And like I can like go in and I can change the titling, and it can be like Uncanny X-Men instead of X-Men, you know, try to do stuff like X-Men, Uncanny X-Men versus Adjectiveless X-Men. Try and get some way to like break out the show into different eras. And it's because my fandom has transformed. Who I am as a fan is different. And so I think that for me, one of the ways that I'm really beginning to think about my fandom is, how do I feel about X-Men? How do I feel about Marvel? How do I feel about comics in general? And I wind up just feeling like, have I become a bad fan for needing to take space from the X-Men? But I feel like I haven't. It's okay to walk away from something when it's not bringing you joy. And I really want to tell Tom Brevoort, if the X-Men and Marvel aren't bringing him joy, he should feel free to walk away.
I mean, you know, of course I agree. And on the other hand, I'm like, I get why he's taking the money. Like, I get that for him, this is a job. And it's just so weird that it is so coming off as like, this is a job and you're not particularly happy with it. What do you got, Kevo?
Well, there's something to be said, though. Yeah, there's stuff where a job is a job, but especially because Nico and I are so Grey's Anatomy brained right now. If a doctor told me, my job is just my job, I don't care about patients, I'd be absolutely flipping horrified, because the fact of the matter is, there are jobs that are just data entry and you don't care about what you do. And there's also jobs where, like, what you do matters in a lot of different ways. And this position and the art that you're making with this position matters not just to people, but it matters across whole spectrums of media production, in terms of how often we talk about the way that comics influence the movies, influence the comics. And that is it's such a huge multi-billion-dollar industry that we really can't say, well, it's a job and he can just not care. No, it actually does matter if you love the thing that you're making, if you feel strongly and passionately and positively about the thing you're making.
I mean, I agree in terms of like, if we ever, are hiring people to help us work on the show, if it's my choice, I'm saying like, I need you to care a little bit. Like I need you to want to be here a little bit. Everything is a job. And if you're not like, if we're not making it worth your while money wise, obviously don't show up. But like, if you feel like you're being paid fairly, you're doing like the right amount of work, I need you to care somewhat. And I want to incentivize you to care. But I'm also incredibly cynical. And when I look at a situation like Marvel, I'm like, I can't hope that everybody is going to show up to do this purely because it's transcendental media storytelling in a lot of ways and can do so much. But I feel that it is that. And I would like to see people show up with that kind of attitude. I just am like, yeah, of course you're showing up to get your bag. And I get it. It just sucks because you're also shooting yourself in the foot and you're shooting the company in the foot. And the company, I feel, is kind of everything for Marvel and DC right now is kicking the can down the road. And Brevoort just really feels like a huge can kick. Something's got to happen with the X-Men until MCUification. And I guess he's just the guy to tread water, except for now that he's in the hot seat, he's horrible. And I don't know how long that can last. Maybe everybody is like, no, this is exactly how we want it to be. We want him to totally filter out all of the like queer fanboys.
Well, I definitely don't think that's the case because
I don't think so either. I'm just like, I don't know.
Well, I just want to be careful because sometimes people do run with quotes like Tom Brevoort hates gays. And like, we don't know that's the case.
I don't think that at all, but I do feel like super alienated by a lot of his comments about why people love Krakoa.
Well, and it's a little bit like part of what I've been trying to do as I'm examining things and I'm thinking about storytelling is I'm trying to look at objectively what Brevoort's era is trying to do. And I can't help but notice how much it feels like we're jumping back. It feels like we're going back, not progressive idea wise, but like generic storytelling wise. Something that I didn't love about the Krakoan era was that it did become super unfocused. And it reminded me the most of Vertigo. It reminded me the most of where somebody would be like, I'm going to do a dozen issues just about this one spooky monster man. And that's the narrative we're doing. So I want to give it the benefit of the doubt and say that maybe, in fact, Krakoa became storytelling exclusionary of new readers. And it wasn't all the content, but it does get really difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't think Krakoa was perfect. But I don't know. I think it was a lot better than it's now being described as. And I get why it couldn't necessarily say this is the same thing. Like, I'm cynical. I get it. This can't necessarily be the status quo forever. They had ideas about why it shouldn't be, and that's fine. This is a business decision. It's a storytelling business, but it is a business. They get to make those choices, and I don't have to agree with them to understand why they make them. It is more just like now I'm looking at decisions where I'm like, I don't think this makes any sense whatsoever. And the QR code conversation is just another one where I'm thinking like there are many ways to address this, but I don't think that nobody said anything to me about it at the cons except this one guy who said the worst thing I've ever heard. Guess we're good. Like, I just feel I'm shocked that anybody is happy with that as the response. And after so many other things where he just keeps pummeling on, I think, relatively reasonable opinions, it makes me wonder. And this is the thing that also makes me wonder about, like, if this is kind of the design, if Marvel is kind of hoping that his tactic of being like, only people who are terrible hate this, and only people who like it are just chill. If that's sort of how they're PRing this whole situation. Because I have not heard a lot of people gagging for the From the Ashes era.
Well, because it's nothing to gag over. It's
That is the case.
but there's nothing to gag over. There's nothing
Yeah.
to not gag over, though. Like,
Oh yeah, no, it's not terrible.
it's just such generic,
Yeah.
backwards storytelling. And you know what?
Yeah.
Since our little book is X Factor, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to kind of like.
Yeah, let's do X Factor first and get it out of the way.
I'm actually going to do something a little bit different first. I do not like From the Ashes, Infinity comic. I do not like it at all.
Yeah,
It feels like they took an artist and a writer with credibility, Alex Paknadel, and everybody they've partnered him with, and have said your job is to write middling, mid stories, and that's two different words. I mean middling and mid. I mean like the critical word and the pop culture word to describe these stories that are almost designed to just be like, well, fuck Krakoa, it never happened. Fuck my drag, and that's all it is. It really is like, oh, well, Jean and Scott are back where they were 15 years ago, well, 25 years ago, because she was dead for a while, where he's afraid of the Phoenix. Maybe it's not a bad thing. Maybe it is. Maybe she's too powerful. This is like the 1990 stuff where they lived in Alaska all over again.
Yep.
And then you've got the undo all of the limbo shit really quick. And then you've got, I don't know, give away all of the secrets that could have made Xavier interesting. Like when they were like, oh, I'm trapped in the school, I was secretly hoping they were going to be like, oh, Xavier's mind has been repurposed to be the doctor that's holding him captive. And the thing in the actual institute is like Shadow King trapped in Xavier's husk or something, and like make something exciting with it. But then to say to me it's as linear and literal as it could be, and to give those answers away. If you're going to give all the answers away in the free online book, well, not free, but in the paid subscription online. Also, okay, I do just want it for 1 second. If you're a sheet music person, the people who own everything sheet music these days are a company that owns Muse Score, they own Chordify, they own, I think they might own Ultimate Guitar now. And this is legitimate that I'm bringing this up because at some point they made a deal with like Hal Leonard so that they could get out of being sued by songwriting groups over and over again, that now they don't want you to use free guitar tab sites online. They want you to subscribe to their Netflix for sheet music. And I bring that up because there are things in those collections that you literally can't buy. They were made for this. Chordify and Muse Score, two of my favorite companies in the world. I've applied for jobs at Muse Score like 15 times. I'm not kidding. I love Muse Score more than any other company right now. And so I do see the value to Marvel saying, what if major things are revealed in the Infinity comics, but then treat them like they're valid, treat them like they're real, treat them like you care about them as much as their printed counterparts, because you don't.
And I'll be honest with you, I gave up a while ago because it was kind of the opposite problem. I loved the Krakoa era Infinity comics, but I felt like they were really relevant and not treated like they were really relevant.
Armageddon Girl was so interesting. We were so lucky for that.
That was that went really off the rails. I thought that story started great.
Yeah, no, that story does end with Sweet D singing Runaway Train, pissing in a jar, and then throwing it on a kid.
Yes. And maybe it didn't even start great because I think she stabs the guy in the neck really early.
Like the first issue.
Yeah, so maybe that one just isn't good. But like Maggot was really good. Doug meeting the mutant that's a language was really good. Jason Lowe's stuff was phenomenal. There was a bunch of really cool stuff in there, and it was the only place that we were getting Krakoan slice of life. And it just felt like there was a disconnect with the quality of the stories being told and how they were being incorporated into this literal ecosystem of Krakoa, but of the Krakoan storytelling to really highlight, because it like Jason Lowe, like what a meteoric rise in comics writing, but like at the time he was not a huge name and he was not getting much. And that was one of the things that really annoyed me, because I was like, this guy is writing great Multiple Man, who Multiple Man is a huge character for a lot of people and is not big in the Krakoan era. So like to see a guy who loves him, who's known for loving him, get to write a story about him, I feel like it should be hyped more. I feel like it should be a bigger deal. Now I'm looking at these stories and I don't love them anyway. I don't love the quality. I don't love the subject matter. But then you absolutely can't read X Factor if you haven't read From the Ashes, Infinity Comics 7, 8, and 9.
Well, can I also just be really quick before we go too far from him? But Jason Lowe was done very dirty this week. That Iron Fist special was a miss across the board. There was not a good story in the bunch. There were some fine stories, but there was not a good story in the bunch. And it's because even a guy like Jason Lowe, who is so brilliant, and we are so proud to have met him on the show. We love Jason. He's amazing. When you don't edit a great idea right, it can wind up a mess. And I think that's what I was trying to say about Armageddon Girl, that even a Jason Lowe can miss. So of course, I just didn't want to be too critical on those creators. Thank you for giving me a moment.
Yeah. And I do want to say same problem, because it's the issue and it's the framing of the issue and it's the point of the issue that does a disservice to everybody. But I was stoked about Alyssa Wong's story. I loved it. I thought it was really fun. I thought it was really cool. But Lin Lia is Iron Fist now, and he's kind of treated like an afterthought. Well,
especially now that Danny Rand is dead forever and is never coming back.
I mean, and that's there. Here we are again, because it's not just a Brevoort problem. This has a QR code that completely, again, doing Jason Lowe dirty. I mean, I imagine he wrote also the QR code page, but that they put that into a story. I don't know. It was very weird. I didn't even think it was like a bad story in and of it, like as a bad one-off. It was a weird way to kill Danny Rand and then not even resurrect him in the same issue in a QR code.
What a Jed McKay.
Yeah. What a moment. I don't know what to do with it.
My big irritation was that, in my heart, when I get to write X-Men one day and I want to put in every one of my editorial notes all over the book, I hope that, somebody comes in and is like, Nico, that's insane. I hope Karen Berger comes in and just goes, no, and stops me, because telling me that all of this is references to things that have already happened is actually exclusionary and makes me feel cut off from the story, not included in it. And I think that's even my problem with what Pac Nadell did over in the pages of From the Ashes comic, where you went out of your way to say that every single thing here, even the Claremont story in the Iron Fist thing, it references when Claremont ended his Iron Fist run after 4 issues with the X-Men showing up, because he'd been writing X-Men at that point. And that's obviously where it goes. That's the famous Storm Gets a Pie in the Face issue that all of new readers that have all been checking out that first episode. This is an unbelievable secret tie-in to that. This is literally a story that goes right after stuff we covered in our first episode. But I'm just bored of Marvel trying to pad their history while claiming they're the future only company.
Yeah.
And so, between things like the Iron Fist special, Wolverine Deep Cut, and the From the Ashes Infinity comic, shrug.
Yeah, it's I get what they thought they were doing with Iron Fist. It was really this guy is it's 50-year anniversary special. He has all of these stories, but this is not the accessible way to do it. I feel like even a curated data page at the end that is if you are curious, here are, because there's such tiny notes and it's difficult to always, Marvel Unlimited is not that well organized. So it's difficult to find stuff a lot of the time. I would have done a data page that said here are the references and here's where to find them. Here's what to search for on Marvel Unlimited if you want to read those stories. But I also would have found a way to maybe not rely on them so much, because so much of it is if you want to be part of the inside joke, here's the 5 issues of back reading you have to do. And if there's multiple stacks of that, we're getting to 20, 30 issues. I don't know. I don't think that's what's going to happen. On the flip side of things, 3 issues of Marvel Unlimited X-Men Infinity comic, not a big ask, but if it's not good, it's a real bummer to go back and read those. It's a real bummer to see Havoc in a status quo at the end of Fall of X, and then see him fine, and then like be like, oh shoot, I missed it, I have to go back, rather than getting the story as it happens. That in and of it, that's getting spoiled, which was a bummer for me because I hadn't read the Infinity comic. I didn't know. And then when I read it, it was really disappointing because, again, it's just another moment of saying nothing that you just read over the past 5 years mattered or happened. Logan and Jean and Scott were never together. Scott has nothing with Emma. Alex has nothing with Madeline.
Well, and I just want to agree with you on all fronts, because my weird frustration is that I want X-Men radio. I want Marvel Universe satellite radio. And I want to hit play. And one of my favorite things in the world is when I finish a Final Fantasy Union video, they'll suggest to me a person doing Mother 3, what you never knew about the original plans for Mother 3. And then, you will continue to take the next video and the next video. If I had an opportunity where I could just read these like 13 page, but because they're infinite scroll, 50 page online comics where like it jumps all over the Marvel universe, I'd be thrilled. I'd be so excited to have that opportunity to engage casually. But because comics are trying to simulate the experience I get from being on YouTube, they're kind of missing the opportunity to explore algorithmic growth. I think we need more multi-title books. We're going to talk about some DC stuff. I actually think if you're not a humongous Green Lantern fan, trying to follow Task Force 7 over to Green Lantern, having read Kneel Before Zod, knowing you need to read Sinister Sons, knowing that there's also Alan Scott's solo series, the John Stewart solo series, the Guy Gardner backup series. It's a lot, man. I would have a hard time with it. But the fact that Marvel seems to be going out of its way to do the opposite. Oh, don't worry about this. You can just find it online real quick. It makes me ask what they're doing.
And so then we've got the actual X Factor book, which is not good. For one thing, I saw this comment, which I was surprised that I saw it right before getting on the show, and I was hopping on Twitter just to make sure we were all set up for the show. Somebody finally mentioned, I had not seen this once before anywhere, this is Ecstatics.
It's not even just Ecstatics. It's literally the first issue of the original X Factor, the first issue of X-Force, and the first issue of Ecstatics.
Yeah. Without any joy.
Or without any of the satire.
Without any satire, without any comedy, without a pop art aesthetic.
Filming a white guy shooting up California does not mean you are remaking Natural Born Killers. And remaking Ecstatics without the context for the culture is just empty.
Yeah. It was a lot of takes from books that either had to grow into being what they were in the case of X Factor and X-Force, or were so stylized that right off the bat, because X-Force and Ecstatics had to grow into what they were as well, but the stylization was so heavy right from the get-go.
No, page one, they are brilliant. I will not hear
No, it's not even that they're not brilliant.
I'm wrong. I'm being silly.
It's not that they're not brilliant. It's just that comics is a serial storytelling medium. You do have to grow. But I mean, yes, they were brilliant insofar as they are so eye-catching, and the writing is so heavily satirical and funny and out there and different than what else is being done that immediately a mark is made. This, to me, yeah, there it is. It's gorgeous. It's perfect. It's so much fun. They threw up a couple of Ecstatics minis in the middle of all of the Krakoa stuff, and I was bummed that they weren't attached to Krakoa only because I thought that might mean that the Ecstatics would be around more. But they were perfect. You know, they're just so much fun. I don't know. This wasn't fun. There is, as we all know, a generation of comics writers, of which I think Gail Simone is like maybe kind of the youngest part, but it is the every issue somebody's first, and people still write like that. Claremont still writes like that. There are people who still write like every issue is somebody's first, and it really gets in the way because while technically every issue is somebody's first, we now have Marvel Unlimited. We have people's back catalogs. We have Wikipedia. It is very easy, like the experience of reading something for the first time. I know this from doing DC, is just so different. I actively do not need any book that I've read at DC to be like, and as you know, this man, Bruce Wayne, his parents were shot. Amusingly, I have still read like 3 of those already, but it's like Gotham Sirens. They are not like, you may know that Harleen Quinzel.
They don't even say her fucking name.
No, they absolutely do not. So if I don't know, and this is how like a lot of times I don't Google the people because I'm like I'm not even worried about it. It's my first issue. I'm not even worried. And you're like, I have this rabbit person is not a. I'm like, the rabbit person is probably the most important person in the DC universe. I'm sure she's been around since the 60s and she's Batman's daughter wife. And you're like, that person has never existed before. Don't know her. Did not go to school with her. And that's perfectly fine. I'm not worried about it. I don't need it. We don't need first issue writing anymore. In that same way, we really don't need so much conflict. Yes, conflict drives story. It's the same thing, 2 rules: conflict drives story, show don't tell. Both of those are absolutely true insofar as if your first instinct is just to write and then, it's not great writing. If your first instinct is, my character just went into a field and had a cola and just chilled all day, that's not a story. Yes, you need conflict, and yes, you need to be able to show, but you can do a lot of telling and you can do a lot of chill moments, and the story will still be great and the book will still be great. Putting the X-Men in these eras where it's every single person who has written a book, except for maybe Phoenix because she's in space, goes, everybody hates mutants. Mutants are the worst. I hate mutants. Let's talk about how everybody hates mutants. We're all on the run because everybody hates mutants. Are you scared to be around me? I'm a mutant. I get that you hate me. Don't worry about coming in for a cup of coffee because I'm a mutant and everybody hates mutants. Okay, I get it. Everybody hates mutants. That's a lot of conflict. I get that, like, everybody is experiencing the toughness of how much you hate mutants. But for one thing, you are all doing a ton of telling and not a lot of showing that people hate mutants. It's a lot of characters being like, well, as you know, everybody hates mutants. So you're failing at one rule already anyway.
So can I jump in on that?
Yeah, totally.
All right. So then here's
I'm ranting because I've gone insane.
Is Brevoort then coasting on what we've done? Something that I sometimes think about is like, I'm really excited that I'm bringing Kid Riot back to conventions with a new team. We have grown our team a bit, and Kid Riot is a different machine than it was a couple of years ago. And, earlier, TK, when you were talking about, like, if you were to bring people in to be part of X's for Show, you would need them to have the dedication to the art of X's for Show.
I actually was specifically not saying Kid Riot.
Well, no, I know, but I'm saying, like, but I'm telling a story. We brought somebody into Kid Riot, and they could not fucking care less.
Yeah.
And they would draw their beautiful art when they felt like it, but they were really in it for telling their own story. And we had a story in Kid Riot about a hyper-technical robot that becomes imbued with magical power and comes alive. And its name is Tech Riot, and it wants to simulate the older queer hero that it is imitating, which is literally the story of Jadestone imitating Alan Scott, having copied his magic in a unique experience. And part of why I'm bringing all of this up is because what breaks my heart sometimes is this person who actually was at one point an X's for Show collaborator. I really don't care. They can watch this all they want. But, they were meant to draw and write the Tech Riot stories. And they didn't have the heart and the vision. They only really wanted to tell the uncanny Kid Riot story. They didn't want to tell the Kid Riot factor story. And so that resistance to growing the idea, to being a part of this bigger picture, it's sort of why that story maybe didn't go as far in the storytelling of Kid Riot, which please check out at FlameCon. You guys can buy it. I'm going to be with all of these incredible people with that amazing banner right down there. X is for show at table L125. And could not be more excited than to share this with all of you. So please come out, check out Kid Riot. But part of why I'm bringing it up is because, like, I sometimes think about how I'm not further ahead in my career, and I wonder how much it's collaborators whose hearts weren't all the way in it. I think about how when you look in the back of that Iron Fist special, they talk about how Iron Fist could not exist without the work of Brubaker and Fraction continuing the white appropriation. I'm kidding. But it is kind of hard because, like, saying 50 years of Iron Fist is like saying let's celebrate 47 years of racism. So it's a little tough, but you know, now, so I bought all of the Brubaker Fraction stuff when it was coming out because I had a friend who was very in on Fraction and in on that sort of world that Kelly Sue and Fraction were building together. And I say Kelly Sue because there is no other Kelly Sue in the universe, but there is other Matts. That is one of those things where she is Madonna, Cher, or Elvis, and he is sort of Kurt Cobain, where you have to say, you know, Kurt Cobain.
I do have to say, I do have another Kelly Sue in my life, and she is also an artist. She is incredible. So anyway,
that's awesome.
I just think it's really funny because I love her so much, and she's like one of the first people I would like to collaborate with if I ever did like my own comic, because she's just an incredible artist. Anyway, sorry, I just had to say it.
But so, like, I feel like Kid Riot and Tech Riot could maybe be at that next level where people are going, oh, well, Jade Stone is referencing that.
Yeah.
And when something like Immortal Iron Fist, or when we talk about Absolute Power later, we're going to be talking about the Absolute characters who, of course, appear in Green Lantern 14, one of the greatest drop-in appearances in the entire history of comics, as far as I'm concerned. And I don't know if you guys realize this, but Absolute Batman was designed by the backup artist from Ecstatics. When Mike Allred would need a week off, he would ask his inker, longtime collaborator, and a man he mentored, Nick Dragotta, to come in, and Nick Dragotta did the interiors for a number of Ecstatics minis, while Allred would go on to provide covers. Dragotta is one of the most incredibly talented artists in the world, and he co-designed Absolute Batman. And so, like, where would Nick Dragotta be if he'd had more support early on? Like, where would Kid Riot be? But like, that's how I kind of personalize it. And I feel sometimes like when we're talking about things like X Factor and From the Ashes, they sort of disavow the ability of a book to grow into itself and become what it's going to be. And that's where I think Spider Society is also, like, at the same time, too far into the we want to make Sony people happy world. I feel like Spider Society needed to be 8 pages longer, and it was already Alex Segura getting paid more than anybody else by the page number, because this was, what, 36 pages?
I never count, but it was long.
So I would love for you to give me any final thoughts you've got on X Factor, which nothing happened, except people died, and then walk us into Spider Society. Thwip, thwip.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of thoughts on X Factor, and I didn't think it was a great book. I think it really complements this whole era in that it's not remarkable. It's not really galvanizing me. I don't really know what to say about it. I recognize the references that it's making, but they're not fun to me. I didn't really enjoy any of them. I am offended by the taking Alex out of his relationship with Maddie. That was literal decades of narrative work coming to fruition. And it's not even, it's
not just because you would write the best ever Mutant X series.
Truly. It is that they couldn't even do a nuanced break. Like they they put Scott and Jean back together, and they couldn't even say, like, they couldn't do a moment where they were like, hey, like, we definitely got freaky on that island with Emma and Logan. We have to chill. Like, we need to do something different because life got really weird. And similarly, Alex and Madeline have a weird situation. They absolutely could have just said, hey, I love you, and I'm doing that whole, if you love something, set it free. We have to go our separate ways, but like, you are always who my heart is drawn to. And instead, it's just kind of this really like, they fictionalize and retcon some reason that Madeline's actually a horrible person. Alex leaves, and he's immediately back in the arms of Lorna. That is boring. That is derivative. It's disrespectful. You're muted. You're still muted.
You know who I want to see Lorna be with? Thank you. You know who I want to see Lorna be with?
Yeah.
I think she would do an incredible job being in the Betsy and Rachel relationship, and then bouncing on over to the Aurora Akihiro relationship, which in my mind is back on because Helverine didn't end with any reason it couldn't be back on.
Don't say more. I haven't finished it yet. I love that, though. I'm excited to hear it.
Genuinely, I'm going to give the entire mini a B. Not even a B.
That's a good grade. Honestly, that is a very good grade.
Me, that is very also the font work. That's some of the best in the last couple of years.
I'm excited to talk to you about it. But I love both those suggestions. I think Lorna's a little too straight for a lesbian relationship, but like also this crowd is never going to give us a lesbian poly relationship. But I do love the idea of her and Akihiro. And maybe anyway, none of this could ever happen. They lack the subtlety. This was a C-, some fun artwork, some very serviceable artwork, some great costume designs. I like the idea of, the reality show TV teams. I just like that the conclusion was more We Hate Mutants was really boring. I'm not excited about this, and I don't care what happens with it. So here we are.
All right. Spider Society.
Let's get into it, man. Yeah. I mean, this is, like I said, I was so excited about this because this is a little bit our side thing. This is like our side hustle that is very important. And originally I said no, or I didn't say no, but I was like, I'm not sure this is the thing for us. But then I remembered this is just Spider-Verse. This is Spider-Verse by any other name. And I think, would smell as sweet or, not as sweet, because ultimately there's a lot to be critical of with the Spider-Verse books. And I'm talking like the Spider-Verse events where they all get together. I'm not talking the Edge of Spider-Verse anthologies that we do every year now. I'm talking Spider-Geddon. I'm talking, when Moreland and the group comes to town. Those are some of the, you and I did a year of covering MC2, fell in love with Mayday Parker, and then we did all this Spider-Verse stuff because that's where she was afterwards. So there's a big piece of my heart in stories about all the people that are not Peter, Gwen, and Miles in 616 doing Peter, Gwen, and Miles stuff. And so even though when you first suggested this, I was a little bit like, I don't know if that's going to be our most successful run. I remembered that this is the only place we could possibly see Mayday. And then I was a little excited. Then I read it, and it was not bad. It was definitely not bad. I think in a lot of ways, it was a lot cleaner and a lot more upbeat and a lot more invigorated with spider energy than some of the later groupings of these characters for Spider-Verse events. But yeah, this desperately wants you to be like, oh, you liked the movies? Please, God, pick up a comic book, because if we can get you people into it, we can justify continuing to print these, which is maybe a lost cause.
And it was so weird to pick this up and open up Spider Society and realize that they're not trying to push the original Spider-Verse anymore at all.
No.
Dan Slott and even Christos Gage's understanding of Spider-Verse are long gone in favor of this new version that I guess it relies on the ideas that were in the previous Edge of Spider-Verse book. Yeah. That's like, I was so happy to see so much Weapon, whatever the fuck his number is.
I think he's 8 or 7.
Because it's 8.
Oh, 8 limbs, like a spider.
And
spiders have 8 limbs, guys. It's an arachnid.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to say, making Craven the bad guy so pedestrian, but making Spider Hunter the bad guy almost inventive. Like if you were doing New X-Men again, and you were doing a book called New X-Men, and you put on a character on the team named Zorn, and you put on a character on the team named Magneto. If Zorn was evil, we'd be like, oh. But if Magneto was evil, we'd be like, well, I'm kind of surprised. This had 2% surprise. I reserved a lot of my surprise for Gwen Goblin. I reserved some of my surprise for the amount of inconsistent art. All very good, but it did not feel like a bunch of people had the same body design or body shape page by page. I don't know. I thought this was a one shot. So when I saw that it's 1 of 5, I was kind of like, oh, I don't know that I'm willing to see the story play out over that long. And then I saw that this was a super deluxe issue, nearly the length, if not actually as long as the actual content of the Iron Fist special. And it was tough. It was really, really tough sitting down to the 25 minutes of this. All said and done, I give it a B. I really enjoyed myself. I really like these spider characters, but it felt like it took a really long time to get to anything exciting.
I see where you're coming from. I agree with that. My thing is I don't always know what we're doing with this. Like, is this just to sell tickets to movies that are there to sell toys? And, you know, my big thing was I came into this because I thought May Parker from Earth 982 from MC2 would be there, and she was
everywhere.
She was, you know, at first I was like, yeah, Nico, she got one panel, but she's there. And then Nico came back to me and was like, no, it's like 10. But she does. She is in a lot of panels. She has one line of dialogue. And the whole thing is the Sinister Squadron, which is a multiversal Sinister Six, comes and attacks them, and they capture most of the Spider Society. Most of the alternate universe Spider people are locked down, and the group that we get, which is a mix of Marvel people, 616 heroes from other universes, and then people like Jessica Drew from Beyond the Spider-Verse, Black Woman on the motorcycle, not Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman of our world. That's the team. Love it. Great. But it does mean that, like, they have said, like, these are the cool, this is the in crowd, and all those other ones are kind of the sucker spider people. And I didn't love seeing Mayday in that. Now that is a me choice. That's a me thing. Like, I know people can love this book and not care at all about that. But I care. And it does get to a point where you create all these characters and people fall in love with every single one of them. And then it's very difficult to live up to giving everybody what they want from them. So, like, I mean, you guys paid for Mayday. You invested quite heavily in her creation and allowing her to be in books and to return. And okay, I tried to pay you back. I bought into it. I was there. I showed up. I love her. I want to write her in a billion issues. I see her in everything. I love her entire universe. Please call me and Nico tomorrow. We can revive MC2 and make it the world's most thriving property.
I would just like to say that we would love to do MC2 2099.
MC 2099. MC2, and then it's the 099 is smaller.
I would love to do the hardcore future version of MC2 with 2099, where like Akihiro Ghost Rider is canon at some point. Like, and like we can summon him up when we use Zatharos.
Yeah. I would also do MC 2.5. I've got a lot of ideas. We're ready to revive this tomorrow. We'll go to print by the end of the week.
Oh, no, digital only.
Yes, digital print. So like for me, this points are off because Mayday's barely in it and she doesn't have any dialogue. But if you love Jessica Drew from Beyond Spider-Verse, I bet you ate reading this. I bet you were so psyched, and I love that for you. If you love Webweaver, I'm happy that Webweaver was there because I do love queer representation. I really appreciate it. I do think that spider stuff is sometimes a place where Marvel is like, no, this is for normies. Don't do gay stuff here.
Normie.
Normies, not that kind of normie.
I don't know. I actually thought that Webweaver was just sort of like gay window dressing here.
Yes, yeah, big time. Sometimes that's all we get. We take our scraps sometimes, but yeah, I mean, this is fun. This was, I think you said B. I think B too. I
think you mean B299.
Yeah, thank you. I do see how this could have been an A. This is just another Spider-Verse, Spider-Geddon, and those are cool. Those are really fun. I'm glad that it's not the original creator of that series, whose name I don't like to say, just because he always knows
your life after you say his name 3 times.
There's a Beetlejuice situation happening, and I'm not getting involved. But his character, his latest character, Spider-Boy, is in it. And so I'm glad to see somebody else doing a Spider-Verse type story. My heart is open. This is not definitively a success for me, but my heart is open for this to succeed. But let's make sure Mayday gets a little more dialogue. Alex Segura, if you're still submitting scripts, or if you have time to edit, if your letterer maybe can just change things for you when putting it in, let's get Mayday some more dialogue.
And one of the things that makes it so necessary is that Marvel is trying to tell us that the grand sum totality of marvel.fandom.com is theirs. And when they disavow huge sections of that website, it makes it clear that all that's on marvel.com in the news section is what's important. And I find myself wondering how much I should continue to invest in things like Spider Society if you're only going to make 1 or 2 characters important. I loved seeing Brielle be the hero of Blood Hunt, but I mean, realistically, if you follow the narrative of the story, the hero of Blood Hunt is Doctor Doom. Brielle shows up, Miles shows up, but Doctor Doom does all the heavy lifting, and I maybe need a little bit more focus on who's the hero. I maybe need a little bit more focus on what the expectations of a single story are. And I find things like Spider Society are engaging and exciting, but if this winds up not adding to the bigger picture of the better Marvel universe, I'm not interested.
Yeah, I think you're ultimately maybe not going to wind up interested.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Well, all right. I guess I give X Factor a C, and I give Spider Society a B. I give the From the Ashes Infinite comic overall a C-, but I give Savage Wolverine, the Infinity comic, so far 3 issues in, a B+. So it's not all loss.
We're about on the same page. I think X Factor I give maybe even a C-. The Infinity comic I have honestly not read. I read when I realized that there was something wrong with Havoc. I went back and read 7, 8, and 9. I've not read the first 6, and I haven't read the new one that's out.
Well, 1 through 3 has Scott and Jean, and
I did read a little bit of 1 through 3. It is boring.
But do you remember? I think her name is April. I'm gonna say April Rhodes, and I know that I'm literally referring to Chenny on Glee. But I think her name is April. The annoying not cat from the Pulse, from Generation M.
Yeah.
She's the star of 4 through 6. And
okay.
You remember when I was like, Xavier should get a new mind? She literally gets that story.
Okay. Well, I'll be interested to read it. We'll see.
I am happy to move on from Marvel, where Blood Hunt left me pretty cold. I'm really excited to talk for a moment about Absolute Power. The overall Absolute Power story leaves me a little confused because it's sort of like Mark Waid said, I love Daredevil so much that Devil's Reign, even though I didn't get to be part of it, is going to be part of my future DC plans. That said, he is the guy who wrote Tower of Babel. So if you're a DC fanboy, I mean, that's holy grail shit. That's basically Crisis. And, he wrote the textbook work that is basically why everybody ever wrote the Xavier Protocols. And so when you think about a guy like such a legend as Mark Waid, you're thinking about a person who's touched every character at Marvel, every character at DC. So when he does do something that seems like someone else's work after his work on a character they both share, it's just happenstance of idea. It's not really that he borrowed from Devil's Reign, especially because when Devil's Reign ended, it ended with perhaps the least exciting part of the overall Zdarsky-Chichetto run. But when we got the complete idea of absolute power leading into the absolute universe, I found myself a little bit more excited. What if everything that Ultimate Marvel was doing spun out of something like Blood Hunt, or like, what was it called? Judgment Day. I almost called it Revolution Day. But Judgment Day, which, God, Kevo, I made you read so much. And it was so bad. I'm sorry. Kieran Gillen, you are...
Okay.
Kieran Gillen is like the Chad White of comic book writers, but I swear to God, that was a very disappointing appearance. Genuinely, not at all the reshaping and refocusing of the future of the Marvel Universe that they were trying to promise us it would be. They told us that there were like legitimate theological questions that were going to be asked by this event. And if they had just said, no, it's another event where superheroes act like gods, I would have been like, oh, great. Absolute Power said it's an event where a single human brings down a bunch of superheroes, and instead it's turned out to be such a complex psychological examination of what's going on in the DC universe, and they have promised multiple events to come out of it, but like mini events. For instance, we know that whatever is happening to the Lantern Corps is happening as a result of Absolute Power, and if you read Green Lantern 14, Hal Jordan has never been more amazing, never been more plenipotentiary. This is like Jeff Johns made Green Lanterns cool again, but this run is making Hal Jordan exciting. But when you talk about Hal Jordan, you have to talk about the fact that Hal Jordan was given an unbelievable DC legend status that just kind of like magically happened. Originally, in Detective Comics number 60, back in 1942, a character was introduced named Airwave, and this was created by Harris Levy. This was Lee Harris. Now, that character, very short-lived, but later on, DC Comics Presents number 40 in 1981 would go on to introduce a new version of Airwave, who is Hal Jordan's nephew, Harold Jordan, who actually ties in to a classic Golden Age character who was a superhero named Airwave under Franklin D. Roosevelt when DC was super into using political figures. And so Larry Jordan, a Golden Age character who just happened to have the same last name, was retconned in 1981 into being Hal Jordan's uncle. And then he's given a son who becomes Hal Jordan's cousin, who becomes Airwave. And Airwave becomes Green Lantern's protege-ish for a couple of issues using his dad's super cool technological sound helmet. And this character faded into obscurity. Guys like Mark Waid in particular bring him back up in a very exciting way. But that Mark Waid now said Airwave is exciting again. I don't know. I'm a guy who thinks that X-Men is just as cool as Cable, and Airwave is just as cool as Green Lantern. He is a teen boy who just like believes that because his family are superheroes, if he doesn't become a superhero, he's not picking up the family business. And I love him. I love him so much. He's such a stupid character. He never gets his just desserts. He has like 41 appearances in the entirety of the DC universe. I have literally gone through and read every single one of them. And if Airwave is back, if Absolute Power is doing what things like Blood Hunt couldn't do, giving us exciting pieces of canon back, giving us those rabbits who are the most important characters in DC. I don't know. This was the right time. And even if you wind up not loving it, even if you wind up saying, Nico, I'm never going to buy a DC book, it's not going to happen. I'm going to walk away feeling like, but what I brought to you was some of the best that DC has to offer. And the pieces you get as a result are yours to decide if you like or not. And that's a good feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's something we have to worry about. Like, I'm already in. There's a lot that is so good. I mean, it's even just going back to last week, it's things like Leah Williams getting to do more of, and I say this lovingly, not in a bad way, her shtick on Gotham City Sirens, which had its issue 2 today, which was fantastic.
Exterminators?
Yeah, that's
what
shtick.
It was, right? I never forget what the original book was called.
The Horny Babes, written by Horny Babes situation, as it should be, with great art, and it's fun, like that alone. And again, I walked in and I was like, that girl on the first couple pages, she's probably really important. She's not at all. It doesn't matter. I'm still having fun. I'm getting DC my own way, and that's, for everybody, that's going to be unique. How you experience taking on a whole multiverse, whether it's, DC, whether it's old Vertigo, whether it's something like Boom's new Buffyverse, which now has a ton of stuff published in it. So like, there's a lot. There's always a lot. It can always be difficult to figure out how to self-curate. But no, I'm having a blast. I think Absolute Power is a really compelling event. I'm very aware often that I don't know what's going on. And again, this is a thing where so often characters will show up and I'm like, that's clearly somebody very important. And it is absolutely not. It doesn't help because like even though he's cool, and I think he had some great stuff in Zdarsky's Daredevil, when Stiltman shows up, you are not dealing with the most important villain in the city, you probably in the room, even if there's no other villains in the room.
I was so nervous you were going to be like, when you get Kingpin, you're not dealing with Doctor Doom. And I was going to be like, off the show, I quit.
Yeah, no, that's opposite. Like Kingpin, he's the financier supreme. But
wow, that made me horny in a special like fiction canon way where like I just really want him to have magical money powers in the Marvel universe.
Yes. So when Stiltman shows up, the book immediately is telling you like this person's probably not going to succeed by the end of the issue or the scene or the book, whatever it is. And similarly, or dissimilarly with DC, sometimes the people named Stiltman are actually like the most important villain in the. Again, I have to point to Amazos. In the story, the Amazos are the most, like, one of the key parts of the villainy.
I need to be clear. They are like an army of Ultrons.
Yeah, none of this. Ultron. I don't know. So there's something. Ultron sounds terrifying. And, there's something very hard and monolithic about it. Amazo is the name of a clown. And that they keep being like, the Amazos came after us is very silly. But they're dead serious. So that is a factor that is limiting DC a lot of the time, is that I'm like, okay, I when they said the Amazos came, I thought somebody was making a joke. And in fact, they are talking about the most important weapon that Amanda Waller has at her disposal. I guess that's where we are today. What do you got, Kevo?
It reminds me of when Cartman was dressed up as a robot on South Park.
Osimo. Yep.
Osimo.
Every time. Every time I go, Amazo.
How do you not?
Yeah.
How do you? Yeah.
Can we roll into Green Lantern a little bit?
I think we have to because this was easily the best issue of the entire run.
I don't agree. I mean, it wasn't a bad issue, but this has been a great run. So I don't.
I'm telling you, if you don't think that Carol is going to join the JLA after this,
it'll be interesting to see if she survives. Come on.
Oh, you're right. She might die for real this time in an important way, like Danny Rand, and we will never recover.
And we won't get that back. What are we going to do? Who's to say?
Who's left to be racist?
This was a great issue. This was a lot of fun. I will say, just a brief tangent, but I do have a point that I am going to get to. Fernando Pasarin draws a lot like Brian Hitch, and it's not always my favorite thing in the entire world. You know what I mean?
It is a very specifically polished kind of storytelling that sometimes looks a little too shiny to be the story it wants to be.
Yeah. So Hal is doing a Die Hard in Amanda Waller's compound, and he has no powers or anything, so he's just doing his best. He's in storage, and so he's grabbing whatever arms he can find, and he gets Condiment King's guns and does use them to fight his way out of a situation. Now me, dealing with DC and the Amazos, I genuinely am like, at this point, Condiment King could be a Darkseid level threat. And
I mean, he's real.
He's clearly real. But you know, I'm sitting here going like, they might take Condiment King as seriously as Marvel takes Doctor Doom, and I just don't know. And like I said, I do think it works slightly out of their favor sometimes. The key rifle, I don't know what that is. I mean, like, I love a Keyblade, so I was a little more into that. But I'm just like, I know the person that has that is going to be named the locksmith, and they're not actually a hero. It's just a locksmith that had a rifle. DC is so weird sometimes. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I really am. But I'm just like, Condiment King, at this point, it's total coin toss if he's the most important villain, or just like a total joke. And I think that's weird. I think it's weird that they're still there.
You know, and it's really funny because there is a great Condiment King reference in Wayne Family Adventures, which was originally the backup thing that we were going to cover this episode. There's a great Condiment King reference there. There are things that the nature of Wikipedia and fandom pages have created for comic situations where, like, Condiment King has actually appeared, like, 7 times proper, but he's appeared as a joke 30 times. So I think it's sort of like there are people who tell great Stiltman stories. Stiltman's daughter was a major character in the New Warriors Volume 4. That is the one that featured Jubilee as a depowered mutant before she became a boring vampire. Yikes. But, there are ways to make these sort of characters exciting. But when the name is Condiment King, I mean, if his name was Toppings Bar, some gay people would be like, ooh, he's threatening. But, like, his name is Condiment King. What is he going to do? Make your hot dog tasty? And thinking about that sort of level, thinking about the way that actually de-escalates the nature of the book, if you don't know that that's just sort of like a funny footnote in the DC universe, it maybe would make Green Lantern 14 kind of a dud.
And it definitely was not a dud. It was, I actually had a ton of fun with this issue. It is just that this is a continuing thing with DC where because there are, God, I can't remember some of the names anymore, but like they flash to so many people getting attacked, and some of them are just so Elastigirl, I think. No, that's Incredibles. Maybe it's even Elasta Woman, and that's why it was so silly. But there's just some name, I don't know. It's the branding is really funny with DC, and it doesn't mean it's not good. And it doesn't mean it's not fun. I mean, a huge part of this issue is picking up off of Task Force 7 number 3, which we talked about last week, and this Amazo that is gaining self-awareness because it has the Starheart inside of it.
Do you think he's going to be gay? Like, I wonder if because he is imprinting
gay magic.
He imprinted Alan Scott, who, by the way, Alan Scott looking
Yeah, they're doing it.
Way too many kinds of gay bear daddy.
Yeah.
That beard, sort of that steely, hardened face with the lines. Like, he has very clear sun aging that I'm going to choose to believe is summers spent on Mykonos and not performance-enhancing drugs. But Alan Scott is drawn to be weathered in a very attractive way.
Yeah, and he looks very, very hot.
The weird thing for me here is that we know that they've said that following Absolute Power, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman will be added to the DC universe, or the DC super multiverse, and they've confirmed that Absolute Flash will follow shortly thereafter. We have no knowledge of an Absolute Green Lantern, yet putting them in this issue was so significant. By giving Hal Jordan an opportunity to meet the upcoming Absolute characters on his own, they're almost providing us an avenue to see Hal Jordan continue to interact with the bigger picture of the multiverse, when we've been told that the entirety of the Lantern universe is going to get I want to say, reset as a result of the work of the writers on Green Lantern and Green Lantern War Journal coming together. That's Adams and Johnson coming together to do some sort of major Green Lantern event. And, TK, I love your guess of they're going to take the Green Lanterns from the police force of space to the Peace Corps of space. And I think that really fits the identity that guys like Ryan Reynolds would really want you to have for his Green Lantern, because I don't know that brutal, mean, dragnet style cop is really what the DC universe is looking for anymore. I feel like Ollie, I don't know how many of you read Absolute Power 2, but that Ollie is going to involve some amount of time travel. He was never really evil. There would be no progressive Hal Jordan without, what is it? It's Green Lantern 91, Green Lantern and Green Arrow #1, theoretically, but it's 91. He literally is like a beatnik who tells Hal Jordan, you're just a fucking mean cop, dude. ACAB all the way. You're the problem. And Ollie is like, I'm here to show you that there's another world. It's tough because, when I look back on that issue from 1975, I think about how that changed comics. I think about how that changed comics forever. But when I think about something like Green Book, I'm like, seeing a character tell another character that there are other ways to see the world is so limited. And I wonder how a character like Ollie and a character like Hal get to have those sides of it. Ollie is always seen as having given a character like Hal the opportunity to become progressive, but Hal is always seen as the guy who was given the chance to become progressive and kind of went backward, because he's a Green Lantern. It's no big deal. But they're trying to say that even somebody like Hal Jordan can no longer abide by a police state. Seeing this backup story with the Shadow Corps rejecting Tharos' ideas and seeing so many of his people being like, we didn't sign up to be warmongers and murderers. I feel like this event is about saying goodbye to the idea that Superman only represents America, that Green Lantern represents the police corps, and that if Batman is a detective, he must be a detective in the same way that the police are detectives. This is going to be a very different era for DC. And I think about what Jason Aaron said, where he said that the Absolute characters are still tied to the original origin of the Prime character. And I think about how instead of being raised on Themyscira, Absolute Wonder Woman is going to have been raised in Hades. And so, I don't know, this is a really great time to jump in and to find out about the DC universe, but I wonder how great a time it is to come to understand the history of the DC universe. The future is not the same as the past, and what draws one to one would probably send one away from the other.
Or maybe, maybe like me, you're taking it all in at once.
I love that. How did you feel about seeing so many Lantern or I guess ring bearers, because I don't want to say. I guess lanterns, because Jadestone makes it really tricky. We had Jadestone, we had Alan, we had Hal, we had Carol, the unbelievable number of backup Green Lanterns, including Chip, who, is not a pet. He is a Green Lantern. Let's just be clear. How did you feel about seeing that level of? It's almost like this is a book called X-Man, and then features 7 X-Men. It's a book called Green Lantern, but then features like 7 Green Lanterns.
I mean, more in previous issues.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of Green Lantern.
Mm-hmm.
I've come to, like anytime I've ever picked up a Green Lantern book, there's almost always, especially a modern one, there's almost always a bunch of them. And yeah, this is what's happening on Earth is, it is a particularly weird time, I can tell, to be reading Green Lantern. This does not really represent anything close to the standard status quo. And that's cool. That's fine. It's very fun and interesting. We've also got, Sorrow Green Lantern, or Sorrow Lantern, Gray Lantern in the mix.
Thank you.
We can't forget about him.
I hate him so much.
He's great. But
Gray Lanterns, and he's like, you are my sorrow.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is probably who I would be as a Lantern.
No,
I know you think I'm a red, but I'm a sad boy.
No, you are a magic Red Lantern. You are a normal Lantern. You are Alan Scott's. Really
I am a
sexy
Russian spy.
Well, it's just that you have like magic Red Lantern powers, because it's all about your like emotion and your being, not your willpower.
No,
it's very specific.
And for Mother Russia. No, but I do love this emo Lantern, and he's just sobbing, he's sobbing gray tears. Great look on him as well.
Big fan of the used.
Yes, absolutely. I have so many questions about this guy. I really hope that he gets the thing. I did love this backup story. This was a really beautiful backup story. Mark Guggenheim is a writer that gives me some eyebrow raises, but this was a
really. Are you not a I am universally a fan of Guggenheim storytelling. I think he is, whether it's his Impulse, his Young X-Men, or his filmography.
No,
right?
I like a lot of his stuff. It was the Team X-Men that came.
Young X-Men, yeah. It was
not Young. After that, did he do Gold or maybe it was?
Oh, you liked Young X-Men with Gray Malkin, but you didn't like his color team. I think he was gold or blue. I think you're right.
Yeah, those are the only 2 options.
No, there was like black and red and white and like.
But I'm talking about it was the gold and blue era, and I can't remember which one he wrote, but I didn't love that. So like occasional eyebrow raises. This was fantastic. This was a beautiful, really sad story. About, I think something that happens to a lot of people, which is, you are dumb and you think that you can do good, and you don't realize that you're signing up for a system that is intended to not allow you to do real good. And in this case, it was a beautiful, sad story. I love that, with the Lanterns, you can just kind of keep making aliens and keep making weird bodies to put the ring on. And it's a very cool, like, it is like mutants insofar as like, you can just make a weird body and you can, this is their mutation. This is what they look like. And again, that's why I loved Krakoa, because it was saying so much of that is real and true, and you should see it. And those people should live out in the open, and you should get to see them. And it's the fun thing about Green Lanterns is you see a dude that is like a centaur snake with a lobster claw, and he just wants to help in the universe. It was a beautiful backup story. This has been a really fun book, and I thought it did really. They did the work from issue 1 to tie this into Absolute Power. So this does not feel like, a lot of times the Marvel tie-ins for something like a Devil's Reign will just be like, I guess the Fantastic Four are in New York. But then there's no There's no mention of like Reed and Sue having a problem with Kingpin or
everybody's in New York, but they only ever interact with their own villains because everybody's really friendly when it comes to geography.
Right. And in this issue 1, Tharos of the, and I mean before, because the status quo started before the book started, so like the fact that Tharos is there, we're already hitting the ground running. Tharos is acting weird. What's happening? Why is Earth cordoned off? These are all really important questions, and it's not till literally a year later, or maybe a little less than a year, I don't know how often this book was shipping, that we get the answer, and it's because Amanda Waller was doing Absolute Power. So when this issue kicks up, it's not like out of nowhere Hal goes, oh, I just found out something bad happened on Earth, I gotta go. He has been ensconced in this entire time from a different angle. I think that's so special and cool. Marvel has done stuff like that in the past. They should do it more. That's great writing. That's great editorial gymnastics. I know it's not easy to do, but I also know it's really possible. It's really possible when your editorial team is on, when people are editing hard, and I think it's so paying off for DC. So I was really happy.
And it's because it's hard. I feel like I lost 30 years of comic book reading when I was a young man, and it's tough because Jeff Loeb really let me down, and Frank Miller really let me down, and there aren't so many people other than the two of them who wrote the canon on Daredevil and Batman. Brubaker's Batman writes my soul. That's Jason Todd becoming part of the family, but his Daredevil is like my least favorite of the modern era. And when you think about this dichotomy, if there could only be one comic book character for the rest of my life, it would probably be Daredevil. I guess, yeah, Daredevil or Phoenix. If I could only have one ever again, it would be Daredevil or Phoenix. If there was a clear third place, it's Green Lantern, and a clear fourth place is Batman, but a clear third place is Bruce Wayne, and a clear fourth place is Hal Jordan. So it's tough. And my thoughts, Wolverine number 5. And my thoughts on Marvel are so clear. I love Daredevil because of the conflicts of his person, his soul, his desire to do well versus his inability to get out of his own way in his daily life. And I think about where that sort of leaves the dichotomy of DC and Marvel, whereas Marvel is so consumed with the world outside your door. DC is consumed with the idea of the best world you've ever known and its problems. And Green Lantern could never survive 1 minute in the Marvel Universe because the Marvel Universe is about new problems, and the DC Universe is about reacting to old problems. Absolute Power is just Millennium, which is the 1987 crossover that followed up to Crisis, or 88. And I find myself really wondering about who I would be now if I had never given up on my DC fandom. And I'm just really glad that the writer that I'm going to be tomorrow is influenced by the books that I'm reading today, because I might have lost some books for 20 years, 30 years, but the books that I'm reading now are really exciting and really engaging, whether it's stuff like Webtoons exclusive Wayne Family Adventures, or it's the exciting stuff that I'm reading over on DC Infinite. I did subscribe because those Infinite comics are so cool. The potentiality of storytelling for DC and Marvel to bring together. I am maybe a baby, but September and October sees 2 releases, DC and Marvel crossover, and then all the amalgam books. And I really, really hope that this leads to a world where they're a little bit more comfortable working together. Dan Didio and Joe Quesada were forever standing at the urinal looking over at each other. And I am maybe hoping whatever woman replaces CB Cebulski and whatever non-binary person replaces whoever is the editor-in-chief over at DC right now are a little bit more collaborative, and looking forward to the future of these two comic companies, because I don't see a way forward for each of them individually, but I see a way forward for the two of them sharing a universe that makes us feel a little bit more excited about the fiction that we've absorbed all these years.
I get that.
Well, okay, I understand that thought I thought was just a pog, but it was a slammer, and
that was definitely a slammer. That knocked them all off the table.
I'm taking all the pogs with me, and it's like playing Magic the Gathering and being stupid enough to put your Sari Angel up for grabs and having to play and to win and coming. All right. Anyway, MTG. If you want to talk about Mira and Urza, we can. But I am really excited about the future of Marvel and DC. I think that one of the things that I'm actually a little bit more excited than I want to admit for is Doctor Doom being the Sorcerer Supreme. Jed McKay's vision for Doctor Strange as a major figure in the Marvel Universe never really worked. Jed McKay's Doctor Strange always worked really well, but nobody else in the Marvel Universe really tried to interact with him. So I feel like things like Doctor Doom as a villainous figure sort of conjuring up the energy of Dark Reign or of Devil's Reign is really exciting. And at the same time, Absolute Power is looking to engage on ideas illustrated in Millennium, but that never got to be really risen to fruition. If DC's Millennium was Final Fantasy VII, then I do think that Absolute Power is Rebirth, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. TK, take us on home. What are you excited to see coming forward from DC and Marvel? And where can we find you at FlameCon? Kevo, you got to come in and talk about a bunch of FlameCon stuff.
DC, I have no idea. I'm excited about whatever comes next always. I am on a roller coaster. I do not decide where I go. I do not know when the next, drop is coming. I am just on for the ride and I'm having a blast. This is a coaster that I absolutely will keep visiting. But I mean this in the best way. Like sometimes I say this and it's like, I don't care. But like, I have no expectations. My expectations are nothing. I go into every week of new comics and us talking about what we're going to read. And I'm just kind of excited. We didn't agree to do Gotham City Sirens till like the week that we were doing it. Didn't care at all. That book was so much fun. There have been like 2 or 3 others that I really didn't know existed. Boy Wonder was another one that I just thought was gorgeous and stylized, but I didn't know that book. That was not like that wasn't like I desperately need to know what's happening here. Dark Age. These are all just like you come up with them and I have a blast with them. And so I'm kind of looking forward to that. I'm kind of looking forward to the next thing where you're just like, this is the thing we're reading this week. And I open it and I'm like, holy shit, this is actually so cool and so interesting. And other than that, like, honestly, because I love her because she is a hometown girl and an alma mater girl, wherever Dreamer shows up next, I shall be Nicole, not Natalie Maines. You are a fantastic actor and writer. You're great on Yellow Jackets, and I
loved you in The Chicks.
No. So anyway, I'm excited. I'm excited to see Dreamer again. Marvel. Oh God. It's not a lot. This is a rough time.
I want Wiccan to come in and be like, look, I watched Drag Race. None of you are going to win the ball. I'm ending this universe.
I'm demiurging this shiz. What I'm excited about that I've not read yet, that's still in the pile, getting ready to go. Jason Lowe's Werewolf by Night is out this week. And I am
B-.
Okay, well, Nico, I was just talking about how I was excited for it, and you could have waited. You could have waited to give me that.
I waited till you said you were excited, and then I let you know.
Great time. Great timing there. Yeah. Okay. Well, so I have no joy in life, and that's for me. Yay. So that's what I got. Yeah, you can find me on the socials at TK Elemental. You can find me at FlameCon wherever Kevo tells me that I am. Because I like reading DC Comics and just on the roller coaster when it comes to FlameCon.
See, but you do have joy because you have FlameCon to look forward to.
It's true. Set me on fire.
Yes, fire take me away. Yeah, we have an exciting weekend coming up. Like Nico said earlier, you can find us over in L125. That's right by the stairs. You know how the show floor has sort of like that second elevated level where it's a lot of merch vendors. What do you have?
No, I'm in disbelief at how cool our position is. We have been at 7 of 10 flame cons at this point, and this is maybe our coolest table yet.
Yes, I loved when we were in that little annex because that was funny. But no, yeah. You can find us under this banner that just came in the mail today, a day earlier. So thank you, Vistaprint. Print Vista. Who did I use again?
Vistaprint.
Vistaprint. Thank you, Vistaprint. Love their work. Amazing prices. And yeah, we have a panel on Saturday and we have a panel on Sunday, and we'll be talking about that content on our channels here, I'm sure, after the fact as well. So if you're going to be at FlameCon, come check it out. And if you're not going to be at FlameCon, don't worry, because we will make sure that you feel like you experienced it with us, because we love experiencing things with you. That is what our channel is all about. We just love getting live and kicking it. So yeah, you can find me on the socials at Kevoreally. That's KEVOREALLY. And Nico, your questions to TK, as well as just generally what you are most excited about right now. What's up in your world?
I'm really excited about the future of the DC Absolute Universe. I would really like to think that Absolute Batman is going to be super exciting, but if not, I still trust Jason Aaron with all my heart and will be buying the books anyway. As far as FlameCon goes, you guys are going to find me in very tiny shorts both days. Very excited to see you guys at L125. Trust me, the shorts are very tiny. Nico Action,
No,
I see OACTION, Nico Action Music, and I see OACTIONMUSIC. Other than that, I'm just watching Grey's Anatomy and trying to be ready for the finale of season 21.
We'll be there.
I understand that I have to watch Station 19, then season 20, then I can watch season 21. Definitely just joking. I should have made that a part of my private practice, but I am super excited about where we're going in the future. One of the things that's been really exciting is this is actually sort of the 501st episode. It's also the 505th episode. Let me talk to you guys about numbering. But
it's crazy.
Episodes of this show have run 36 minutes. They have run 4.5 hours. I've had the best 4 fucking years of my life on this show. I met my partner who's standing next to me on this show. I, of course, got to know my husband even better below me on this show. I mean, you're my equal, not below me.
No, not that even. And I'm down here. I'm working the gears. I'm in the engine room. I'm making it run. I'm saying it's been like 6 years. With from the seed of podcasting all the way to where we are now.
You're totally right. I was just counting from like actively going at live books regularly. I hope that everyone who's ever listened to X is for Podcast comes up to us at FlameCon L125. I will probably be trying to make out with Terry Bloss the entire time because he is the cutest guy at FlameCon every single year. You guys might recognize him as designing those unbelievable images in the lower right-hand corner. Terry would also be the guy responsible for the unbelievable reimagining of Reptile, and just such a one-of-a-kind creator. Kevo, you got something?
Well, what Nico is saying is TK and I are still available for makeouts, so come to the table. And
also, I do want to point out that one of the unbelievably tiny pairs of shorts I stole were TK's unbelievably tiny pair of shorts. So if you make out with me...
That's so funny. I just packed all of my unbelievably tiny pairs of shorts and I did not find a missing pair.
The gray ones.
Are they Target?
No, they're the cute little gray ones that I stole forever ago. You looked so good in them, I had to have them. So anyway...
Well,
TK is even more attractive in person. as is Kevo and I. So please make sure to check
Come
out
see us.
L125. FlameCon has been something that we kickstarted when it first appeared and have been lucky enough to be a part of 7 out of 10 years. And FlameCon has been a home for us. I am admittedly, as my drag king self, maybe a little more than excited to tell you all that you guys can find us sipping House of Love cocktails at the after party where I'm going to be living for Megami. Hopefully she just holds up a sign. But other than that, X is for show, Nico Action, N-I-C-O-A-C-T-I-O-N, Nico Action Music, N-I-C-O-A-C-T-I-O-N-M-U-S-I-C, TK Elemental, Kevo Really, X is for show. 3 things you guys can do for us: like, comment, and subscribe. We really love interacting with you guys. No, for real. You guys don't understand how excited I get when we get comments. So all of you who, I just double checked the numbers, 173 people between streaming and downloading have checked out the first 6 episodes of X's for Podcast in 7 days. What? Thank you guys so much for checking out our, as Kevo said, nearly half a decade ago material. But those of you tuning into those earliest episodes, if you hear this, whenever you hear this, tell us what you want to hear. We will do a special bonus episode just for you if you are checking out on August 14th, any of those first 6 episodes. 2024. We are so excited for you guys joining us, and come to FlameCon. If you guys show us that you are subscribing to our YouTube, we have special prizes at the table. So all 26.7 million of you living in the tri-state area, show up, come get some super cool stuff at FlameCon. We can't wait. Nico Action, TK Elemental, Kevo Really, and that is X is for show and X is for podcast. Until then, 3 things you guys can do for us. Number 1, stay safe. Spooky, scary world. Number 2, be brave. You are amazing. But number 3, evolve daily. Who you were yesterday, amazing. Who you are today, we love it. But who you are tomorrow, that's the dream. And we'll see you.